So we've handed in our notice on the house. We are actually moving out of the house, and on the 1st of August, officially, we will be living aboard full-time and have no property, have no house to move back to, no safety nets. This is it, guys. The big step is happening. So we've got basically 4 weeks now, all of July, to get ourselves and the boat ready to live aboard, and then on paper we're here in this marina until the end of August. So by the end of August we've got to be out of this marina, and that means there's an awful lot to do preparing the boat, but mostly the focus at the moment is preparing the boat to be a home. So Melissa and Ollie and Jack are at home at the house at the moment, getting rid of all of our worldly belongings so that we can move aboard, and my focus is to get the boat smelling nice and being a safe place to be. So it doesn't seem like I'm going to be doing anything visually that you're going to actually see. What I'm doing is the stuff that nobody will see. Now, I went part way down this rabbit hole a few weeks ago when I did the episode about cleaning out the engine bilge, and what I'm going to be doing in this episode is more of the same, getting that engine bilge a little bit cleaner and getting a lick of paint on all the stuff that's a bit stinky. So as far down into the engine bilge as I can get, and the battery bay and the bilge in front of that, and if I can, I want to get on to giving the engine a lick of paint as well, because there's a lot of flaky paint on the engine, which isn't a bad thing, but it looks tatty and it just is a maintenance issue. So while I've got a pot of paint in my hand, I want to try and get the worst of the flaky paint off the engine and get some on the engine itself to make it look a bit more presentable. So something really exciting is happening today. One of our viewers has reached out and is offering to bring us a tube roller, a pipe roller. Now, there's a difference between a roller and a bender. Nigel already has a tube bender which enables you to do sharp bends of 90 or 45 degrees, but to do long sweeping curves like the front of our cockpit enclosure or the camber over the top, you need a roller, not a bender. And we already have a bender. So lots of people very kindly said things like, oh, you can bend tube over a gas bottle. Well, we don't need to do that. We've got a tube bender. We need a roller. And one of our viewers, who was actually somebody we were moored up against earlier on in the year, has got a tube roller and is bringing it here today so that we can start next time Nigel is here to roll those pieces of tube to get the curves, not the bends, but the curves that we want to make the whole cockpit enclosure look lovely and streamlined. It's a bit breezy and I haven't got the dead cat on, so there might be a bit of wind noise, but I'm just going to nip up to meet John, who's lending us this tube roller. Right, so this is a tube roller, not a tube bender, it's a tube roller. And what happens is you put your piece of tube, like this for example, in here. This is the handle for the jack. And you pump the jack up like this until it puts a little bit of pressure between these two rollers and the one above. And then you roll it through, and you can roll the tube backwards and forwards until you achieve the desired curve, the sweeping bend that we need for around the front of our pilot house stroke cockpit enclosure, whatever you want to call it, and the curves across the top. And then Nigel's tube bender will do the corner pieces, which are much more of a sharp radius. They're not 90 degrees, well, they're 90 degrees, but they're a curved 90 degrees. So there's a difference between bending steel and rolling steel, and you'll see all of that in practice when Nigel comes to do the job. This has been borrowed by one of our incredibly kind followers. Thank you so much. And I'm going to cover it up in a tarpaulin and tie it all up nice and tightly so that it's protected from the elements until Saturday when Nigel is here and we're going to start curving some steel. On another issue, while I think about it, I better just give you an update. The surveyor has been and looked at the boat, and they've sent a report back basically saying that there were two little bulges where the chain plates are, and my worry was when the boat, because I only noticed them when the boat was over on its side, and I thought, right, that's a bit of a concern. and it was because the light caught it at a certain angle with the boat over on its side, and I thought, oh, they look bad. They look like they've, you know, become bad now. So the surveyor, I obviously alerted our insurance company to that, thinking this is going to be a big problem, chain plate issues. The surveyor came out, he's inspected the gel coat, inspected the fiberglass on this side, but also on the port side, and he said you can actually see the marks in the gel coat. It doesn't show up on camera, but you can see the marks in the gel coat where the chain plates are on both sides. So it actually means that we don't now think that those imperfections in the gel coat were caused when the boat was over on its side. And he also went inside the boat and had all the cupboards apart and was checking all the paint around the edges of the cupboards and the paint around the bulkheads and all that kind of stuff, and there isn't any sign of anything moving at all anywhere. So it's a huge relief. We're still waiting for the final word on all of that, but it looks at this moment like the boat did what she was supposed to do and looked after herself when she was laid over on her side. So I feel a bit of a fool now for getting so worried about it at the time, and I feel like, oh, was I panicking about nothing? And maybe I was, but I said that to the surveyor and he said, no, absolutely not. You've got a duty of candour and a duty of care to inform your insurer that the boat's been over its side and you've noticed something that appears to be awry or amiss to you, and have it professionally looked at. And that's what I did. So I'm sort of I try not to be too hard on myself for being a bit of a drama queen. I don't think I was. I think the boat was over on its side, it looked bad. We told the insurance sent a surveyor. The surveyor seems to think, no, it's all golden, it's all fine. So breathe a sigh of relief. We think everything's all right after the little marina incident. And while I'm on that subject, can I also say the marina staff here are amazing. The harbour master, the dock master and all the lads, they were running around protecting people's boats, doing everything they possibly could. The incident with the gate could not have been predicted. It was not their fault, and they in no way could have seen that happening. This marina has worked flawlessly and the gate has worked flawlessly for years upon years upon years. And so I don't want anybody to think it was, you know, a big failing on the part of the marina, or that we feel, oh, we've got to get out of here. It's a fantastic place to have a boat, and we love it here, and we would stay here. Well, we wouldn't stay here forever because we're going off to sail around the world. But this marina is amazing. The staff are brilliant, and we've got nothing but positive things to say about them and the way they handled that whole episode. There's so many different jobs I've got to try and get done on this boat before we leave, and we're hoping to leave by the end of August. Now, you've seen a few weeks ago, I did a decent job of cleaning up that bilge. I'm sure there'll be some more rain, water and condensation in there now. But I want to get that back open because our batteries are now over there. The only battery that's going to live down there anymore is going to be our starting and cranking batteries. We may have two. But I want to try and do that because I want to try and tidy up a lot of the cabling and move a lot of the cabling, gain better access to the front of the engine. So I'm going to see if I can do that. But let's start dismantling that area and see where we end up. I feel like I'm not really achieving anything. I'm sort of spending more time looking at things and just kind of scratching my head, figure out what the heck is that and where was that supposed to go. And so at the minute, I guess I'm achieving something. I'm just kind of stripping out all the stuff that I know that we're not going to use. So I've been in the engine bay and started pulling out old wires, and I've got to figure out what they were for, but they'll probably end up being redundant. Like that one, I'm pretty sure that will have been for either a wind anemometer or a depth sounder, probably the wind anemometer, judging by the number of cables and number of wires within the cable kind of thing. This one looks a bit heavier duty. That looks like, well, it has got a label on, but it's not readable. So so that one is not going anywhere. All of this lot, all of that lot has come out. That's not going anywhere. That's an old fuel hose from the old fuel tank. That's come out. I'm taking off all of these old plaques, look, that say battery panel, parallel emergency use only and service battery, because we're not linking our house bank to our engine starter bank anymore. So it's only this isolator key that's going to still be in place. I'm going to remove these two. I was going to cut out part of that bulkhead to get better access, but I don't think I am, because the more I've looked at it, it's glassed in and it's bonded and tabbed, and cutting I might cut an access panel in it, but I'm not going to cut a large section out. A lot of this old veneer has got to be peeled off and either replaced or just painted. I'll probably just paint it. The wood underneath the substrate's good, it's just the veneer that's peeled from being left all damp. So it's kind of not, I feel like this is kind of slow, boring, tedious work. I shall try to edit it in such a way that it appears a lot less slow, boring and tedious to you than it is to me. Right, I've got the cables that I don't want to get rid of yet all tidied up. This one is the solenoid for the alternator, to connect to the alternator, so I've got to remember to reconnect that. I'll go back on the engine start key isolator, and I'm going to get a lick of paint on this. I think it's not the best surface, and I haven't done like a massive amount of surface prep. I might do a bit more cleaning down there, but I just want to tidy it up a little bit, and it's all sort of little bit by little bit, tackling even if it's a square inch at a time. Oh, I had hoped to get the whole engine bay painted and that stuff, but that was just way too ambitious. I'm not going to be able to do that. Oh well. So that's what I'm using to tidy the cables up. But all of that cabling has just been, is all like old, obsolete, ripped out wires. I guess I can paint all of this out as well, can't I? Yeah, I think I'll do that. Okay, so I'm going to start painting. It may seem counterintuitive to you, but this is the bilge of what I cleaned last time. It's a bit grubby down at the bottom there though, but I'll still need to, I'm not going to paint down that far clearly. And I'm going to paint the back of this bulkhead that I've just stripped all the wiring off. And part of the reason I'm doing it, again, is all about smell. I know it sounds stupid, but getting the boat smelling of fresh paint and fresh fiberglass and fresh resins is much nicer than having the boat that stinks of stinky old bilge. And the boat doesn't smell that bad now, but every little bit that I kind of go over and paint, I realise I may need to do it again at some point. it's a boat, hang on, correction. I realise I will definitely need to do it again at some point, but doing it now will buy us several more years, and it will smell great, or it'll smell of paint, which is better than bilge, and it'll look a lot cleaner, and just having a brighter colour. I hope I've got a brighter colour. I think I've got silver here. I've got a kind of silver aluminium finish, which is much nicer, and I prefer that for around engines and stuff like that, because then if you get any fluid spilt, you can see more easily what it is, whether it's water, oil or coolant. If it's on a black, if it's just black, it's really difficult to see what's spilt until you dip your finger in it and taste it. But yeah, there you go, painting. Let's mixing and painting now. Okay, so the place is completely upside down. Let me just show you though what's been going on. That bilge is now cleaned and painted, not all the way down to the bottom because that's a job for another day, because I need to get down there and reach it. This bilge section of the bilge isn't painted out because I was standing in this bit to paint that bit. So that's the battery tray for the starter batteries basically. Oh, careful where I stand, I haven't cleaned up and tidied up yet. And the back of this now, look at that. There's the bilge pump I need to connect back up, the hand whale gusher, and I've got another electric bilge pump to go in there. There's the lights that I need to remount, and you know, as I work through this, I'll do down there and you know, under the engine and the engine itself, because the engine's looking a bit shabby. It doesn't actually look like I've done very much, but believe it or not, that's an entire day of faffing about. Boat work takes so long, doesn't it? Anybody that works on boats will tell you that.
So I don't know if you remember some episodes ago, me putting petrol in our diesel car. Well, that car's completely dead. I've killed it. So obviously I can't be trusted with cars anymore. So I've been sent an e-bike to review. So obviously with that in mind, we now have one tiny Fiat Panda. So we've got to get this bike over to Ocean Melody, and we can't put it in the car. This is really great. It's kicking in and making these hills really easy. Now, I could have done with this some years ago. There was, I'll tell you a bit of a funny story while I'm testing out this bike. Somebody told me once that I couldn't cycle to my sister's. Now, I lived in Herne Bay in Kent, and my sister lived in Gosport in Portsmouth. So some 250 miles away. 270 maybe, and I jokingly said, oh, I'm going to cycle there, and a work colleague was like, you can't do that, and I was like, yeah I can. This was a year before I had Jack. So I borrowed my granddad's bike and I got some panniers and I put a tent on the back and a sleeping bag, and off I went on a bottle of a bet for a bottle of wine that I couldn't do it. I forgot my map, so I just kept the sea on the left and kept going. I really could have done with this bike over the South Downs. It would have been amazing. So I'm going up quite a steep hill now, and it feels pretty easy. I've got full power assist on. I think I can change gears here as well. Yeah, I mean, I'm going up in the hardest gear, so it would have helped if I'd changed down. Still going uphill, I'm doing 13 kilometers an hour, and I can feel it. But I'd be walking up here normally on a bike. Getting to the tip of the hill now, drop down to 11 kilometers. Oh, it's just stunning around here. The other thing that this bike is great for is obviously Ollie's just coming up to 11 weeks old, and he's permanently been attached to me because he's exclusively breastfed. Over the last couple of weeks I've been expressing and trying to introduce a bottle of breast milk, just so I can have some time to myself a little bit. So it's actually really nice just to get out on the bike. Oh, we're picking up speed now because we're on the flat. 22.5 kilometers an hour. Yeah, but it's great. I feel like a big kid. This is just amazing. It's so nice to be out. You can tell that I haven't got out much. Like, I've been pregnant and poorly for ages, and then obviously Ollie's only 11 weeks, so I'm like a, you know, a hyperactive puppy who's been let out on a walk. What I'll say about the bike, it's really comfy actually. Some of you may have noticed, but I've lost a substantial amount of weight recently, so my bottom is currently quite bony. Not that you need to know that, but I need to bulk out a bit on my bum, and it's not hurting, my bum. Might be too much information for some people, but you know, these things are important when you're riding a bike. Comfort. So this bike that's been sent to us to review is the Ellie Glide M1 Plus. And I will say that Ellie Glide haven't paid us any money to do this review and have asked us to be completely honest about the bike. Quickly though, I'll give you some of the specs. It's a mountain bike style frame and it's much lighter than other e-bikes we've tried. It has 21 gears and hydraulic front suspension, which makes it really comfy and also really usable even if you forget to charge your battery and get caught out. But it does have a 100-kilometer range, which is insane. The control unit has 5 levels of pedal assist, so obviously to get that huge range you need to use the lower assist setting, and if you crank it up to maximum assist, that will reduce the range. But the journey of about 20 miles only registered 1 bar of used battery, so I was really impressed with that. Power wise, this is the UK model, so it's got a stock 250 watt brushless motor and a top speed of 25 kilometers per hour. I found the control unit to be a good size screen and really easy to use. What I like most about this bike, for an e-bike it's actually really affordable. It retails at €699, so it's a lot cheaper than other e-bikes, and performs just as well. I found it very comfortable to ride and really easy to adjust things like the seat height to suit me. From a usability point of view, as we found these full-size bikes are absolutely brilliant for getting about both on-road and off-road. They're extremely usable if you're living aboard in a marina or from your camper van, but probably a bit too large to use practically if you're living at anchor and using a dinghy to get ashore. I mean, it is possible, but probably want to get something much smaller like a folding bike. But from the marina, it's absolutely ideal. But for what we're using it for right now at this stage in the adventure, it's perfect. And you can get it with a €60 discount using coupon code SAILING60. Details of where you can get it are in the description under the video.
Oh no, it's gone wrong. So this morning my plan was to continue with that wiring situation in the engine bay, to look at wiring in the DC-DC charger, which charges our lithium bank from the engine, from the alternator. So in doing that, I was looking at a relay that I pulled off yesterday, which I just think was, we think was switching over from the old domestic bank to the starter bank. And I've gone to start the engine to put my multimeter across it, and the engine goes ka-dunk and stops. It's hydraulic locked, I think. Well, it's seized. The engine is seized. Now it might be a simple thing of there's been a drip of diesel has got in there and it's hydraulic locked one of the pistons, one of the cylinders with diesel. It might be, and I can't believe I've been so stupid, but when the boat was laying on its side a couple of weeks ago, it might be that it siphoned seawater through the exhaust system into the bores. I bet that's what it is. I bet there was seawater left in the engine, in the exhaust system, and that's siphoned back into the block, which has meant that the engine is full of seawater. I can't believe this. I can't believe how stupid I've been not to look at this sooner. Because of course we're on shore power, so we're not running the engine to charge the batteries, and we're not going anywhere. So I haven't run the engine for a fortnight since the event when it ended up on its side. So, and I haven't got my socket set here, so I'm going to nip home, 2.5 hours home and back, go and get my socket set and see if I can turn the engine over at all. And if I can't, then I'm going to have to start pulling injectors. Change of plan. I've not gone back to the house. I actually got in the car and went to drive to the house, and then I thought, hang on. If I get a socket and a breaker bar and I put it on the flywheel, not the flywheel but the pulley wheel, and I turn the engine over, all that will confirm to me is whether the engine is seized solid, which I don't think it is. I think it's just hydraulic locked. And if I put too much strain on it, that could damage something. So what I need to do is pull the injectors, siphon out the seawater that's got in. What's happened, I've thought about it a lot more and discussed it with Andrew and Paul, and when the boat was leaning right over on its side, the exhaust baffle and everything was all on the uphill side, so some of the water will have come out through the anti-siphon, but some has made its way back into at least one of the pistons and hydraulic locked it, which is bad but not terrible. So if we take the injectors out, we can get that water out, which will be no problem. Make sure that we put some diesel through it directly into the pistons to kind of flush out any residual water, then put the injectors back in, and all should be well. Now, and then the next thing that occurred to me is, whoa, hang on a minute, contact your insurance company first, because that, again, it's resulting from that incident. So talk to them about it first. They may decide to send the surveyor back round and get him to have a look and start the engine and go, oh yeah, that happened then, because we've documented evidence from the week before that we were motoring to Abermenai, haven't we? So the engine clearly was running perfectly before that event. Anyway, I'm going to stop panicking about it. That's what insurance is for. I don't think it's going to be that big a deal. It probably needs to be dealt with by an engineer on the insurance rather than me. But I'm going to crack on with just cleaning and painting the engine and making it nice, because I don't think there's going to be any catastrophic damage. It was just like oh no, this is really bad, and actually thinking about it, it's probably not as bad as I think. Right, so painting and cleaning and painting the engine. Carry on with what I was doing, tidying up wiring and stuff. Engine bay again, and I've already done that panel. I need to put these cables up with some P-clips and make them tidy. There's a couple of bits I need to screw back on the wall, like that relay. But what I want to do is give the engine itself a bit of a tidy up. Now, As you remember, you may not remember, you may not have seen it, go back and look, but the boat was left on the hard. Having had a light rebuild, the oil is like, if I show you the oil now, look, whoa, oh, there you go. That's the oil in the engine. It's golden. There's literally, the engine is in perfect condition internally, which is what's important, apart from the fact that it's got some seawater in the flipping pores. But because it was left for a while, just kind of sitting there stewing in condensation and stuff, the paint on the outside has got a bit flaky. So it just looks a little bit tatty on the outside. So I'm going to give it a bit of a clean with a selection of small wire brushes of varying degrees of harshness. That's actually a nylon brush. That's slightly harder, and that's brass. And this is a brass brush, wire brush. So I'm going to give it a clean and then see if we can't give it a bit of a spruce up with a lick of paint. I'm going to use again a 2-pack paint to paint it with. You don't actually need VHT unless you're doing things like super hot turbos and exhaust manifolds and stuff, but normal epoxy paint will be fine for this. Might smell a bit when we first run the engine, but it'll be fine. Okay, so we're getting there. I've tidied up the rest of that cabling, screwed a load of it back to the bulkhead. Sorry about the lighting, guys. And I've cleaned the engine up on this side. Now, I haven't cleaned the front of the engine where the flywheels are yet, and I haven't done the other side because I need to go in the cockpit locker to do that. And you know, you can only do what you can do in a day. So I'm going to paint this side of the engine only. And I'm not painting the whole thing because obviously there's loads of bits and pieces that you don't paint, like the oil filters and things like that. So I'm just giving it a tidy up, really. That's all. I'm just giving it a bit of a tidy on this side, and then when this side of the paint is completely dry and, you know, as set, then I can go the other side tomorrow or on another day and do the other side and do the front. So it's not even really a restoration. This is just maintenance. Boat engines live in a terrible environment and get hot and cold and wet and dry, and paint flakes off them. So just a case of, you know, maintenance is stay on top of any flaky paint. So I've taken off the worst of the flaky paint. I'm going to touch it up. Okay, so as I said yesterday, I had a bit of an issue with the engine and I went to start it because I was doing that wiring in the engine bay and it wouldn't start. So I've called the insurers have called the surveyor has advised to get an engineer down, and I've called the engineer and he's coming down this morning in about a quarter of an hour. So I finished painting the engine yesterday. I hope the paint's dry because otherwise the engineer is not going to be happy with me because it's going to get covered in silver paint. So that was maybe silly of me, but I'm hoping it's fine. And then we'll see if the problem is bad. I don't think it is. I think it's just a hydraulic lock. So in the meantime, I've got to reconnect the engine start battery so that I can demonstrate to you and the engineer when he arrives what the actual problem is. Let's just try and turn that over and see what happens now. Yeah, can you hear that? It just goes clunk. At least we know the starter motor Bendix gear is engaging and it's trying to turn the engine over but failing. And let's have a quick look at the engine that I painted yesterday and see how she looks. Oh, look at that. That, to me, looks like a tidy engine. I know it's not a textbook way of painting an engine to do it in situ with a wire brush and some paint, but the way I see it is I can either do nothing, everything, or something, and I've chosen to do something rather than nothing or everything. And look, I mean, it's just so much better access. Now I've cleared out all those other cables. I'm really pleased. So this is Tom from A&T Engineering. He came to have a look at the engine and here's what happened. Okay, forgive the slightly sketchy nature of this. I've got my hand holding the camera because the engineer doesn't particularly want cameras pointed at him. He said it was all right for me to get a clip of him working, but doesn't really want to be on YouTube that much. It's fine. So his tools are all here. He's nipped back up to his van to get some other bits and pieces. He has got the injectors out, which is great. And the engine is moving a little bit, which is great. So we're just going to go gently so as not to damage anything. Here's the engine turning over. It's got no ring, not got no injectors in. This is a terrible bit of filming, but watch. And that's just with WD-40 in the bores. So it is turning over, so things aren't as bad as we thought. But the issue is that we're discussing is how much damage has it done to the bores and whether it's worth going further down the, you know, down that rabbit hole. Yeah, there you go. Oh, right, yeah, so all that sludge on the floor is a mixture of water and WD-40, which has gone everywhere. Oh, that's my next 2 days, is cleaning the engine bay, which is what I've been doing for the last 2 or 3 days. And there's all the bits. There's the injectors that have come out and the fuel rail. Right, okay. Onwards and upwards. Let's see if we can get it running next, I suppose. Shall I try it again?
Yeah, I can try to start it.
Okay.
FC cock open?
I think so. Can you
Yeah,
just...
it is,
yeah,
so.
Cool. I'll just glow. Preheat, preheat, preheat. Okay. We're running. The engine is running. I'll just check if we've got water. We've got water and a lot of steam. We've got water and steam. But
Steam?
that's, well, it's a bit smoky.
Yeah, be on all the oil we've put in there.
So, I think then I'll run this a lot today.
Yeah, what I would do is we'll run it under load in a minute, warm it up, make sure it's light, and then put it under load for a minute.
Yeah.
See what she's. It does actually sound all right.
Does it sound okay?
It does, yeah. If you had a. If she started well, what's a good sign?
Started instantly and runs and sounds sweet. So,
Have we got fish?
yeah. Tom's saying it sounds fine. Doesn't sound like there's any nasty sort of grating noises or nasty noises coming from the bores, which is good.
Well, I didn't think I'd be seeing that today. Well, it was locked up. I just put it in stern.
Yeah. Do you want me to just check my lines are tight
just check
enough?
your lines, yeah.
We don't want to go backwards into him, do we?
No. You know what? I think you've got away with it. Or they've got away with it.
Bloody hell. Amazing.
I'd just like to take this opportunity to give a huge thanks to Tom from A&T Engineering in Menai Bridge. I rang him and explained the problem and that we potentially held salt water in our engine, which if left there could be a really bad thing, and he came out the very next day and had the problem sorted in less than 2 hours. So just as a thank you, I'm putting their website on the screen now and thoroughly recommend them for all manner of boat related engineering stuff in the North Wales area. Also, a big thanks to Craft Insure, our insurers, who've been really supportive, and we've been really impressed with them throughout the whole situation.
We got away with it. Well, we didn't get away with it, they got away with it.
Did you stop not work? Is it on a...
Is it what?
Is it on the key?
Oh, it's on here. It's on this, oh. There you go.
Oh, it's a pull. It's not a...
Yeah. It's not got a solenoid on. Right, there you go. Right, there you go. What a roller coaster that was. Started off looking at just getting some paint down on the bilge and it turned into a big drama, which then turned into not a drama, a little bit like everything else that's going on at the moment. So just to recap, I've painted out the bilge under the companionway now. I've painted out the engine, one side of the engine, and got rid of all of the flaky paint. I've tidied up all of the knackered old extraneous wiring from that bulkhead that doesn't need to be there, and we've got rid of that completely, so that's really cool. It looks a lot tidier now. I'm going to get on to a company and try and get some acoustic foam. So I want to mount a few more bits and pieces on that bulkhead and then cut some acoustic fireproof sound deadening engine bay foam to go in there, which will be really cool. But the whole boat now just smells clean, and it smells of paint and epoxy, but it doesn't stink of stinky old bilge. There's more I want to do in the aft cabins as well. I want to paint out, you know, all of the rest of the bilge front to back eventually in little bits and pieces. But now we're starting to get to the point now where the boat is, you know, getting towards you know, to be ready to move aboard. We've got power thanks to Bluetti and thanks to, you know, the other bits and pieces that I've fitted, so we can power everything, we can charge everything. We've got a little washing machine which I need to plumb in, which I've showed you but you haven't seen. Yeah, we're getting there. We've got the solar arch coming from Nigel, so next week you should see some progress on that. Nigel's coming on Saturday to roll the tubes for the solar arch. We're sorting out our transport issues because we're getting rid of cars, and we're going down to just bicycles, which you've also seen. And it's a big step, this. We're kind of nervous about it, you know, being houseless for the first time in my adult life, not living in a house but living full-time on a boat, and that now is definitely happening in the next 4 weeks. So we really appreciate your support and advice and kind words and all of that stuff, and thank you so much for watching the videos, because just watching the videos and having those annoying ads pop up is what generates our living now. So really thank you for that. Thanks to our amazing patrons who offer the little bit of extra support that they give, and we've got a couple of new patrons this week, which is amazing, and they're on the screen now. And if you want to leave a like, please do, and if you want to leave a comment, we love that. We'll try and answer your comments, and in the meantime I'm going to stop rambling and say bye bye and see you next week.